Joining me today, all the way from Alaska, is independent researcher and author Dr. Nick Bagay. It's so good to have you in studio.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I know you've been a guest of ours for years, but it's great to actually have you here. Just to give a little bit of background, you do a lot of independent research in the sciences and politics. Very well known in Alaska for your own political activities, which of course includes being a member of a multi-generational political family. Your father is the late U.S. Congressman from Alaska, Nick Bagay Sr. Your mother was a political activist, Peggy Bagay, and now I hear your son is also involved in politics as well. You are the publisher and co-owner of Earth Pulse Press, currently consulting for tribal organizations, private corporations, and others in a number of research areas. You've authored Angels Don't Play This Harp, Advances in Tesla Technology, Earth Rising, The Revolution Toward 1,000 Years of Peace, and your latest work is Controlling the Human Mind, the Technologies of Political Control or Tools for Peak Performance. Now, talk to us a little bit about some of these technological control apparatus that are being used. Angels Don't Play This Harp, for instance. A lot of people think the HARP program is just about controlling the weather or something, but I personally feel, what the heck are they doing, even with geoengineering and these other things, with the ionosphere?
Right.
And with that, I truly believe that that is something that is, in a way, enabling a bit of control.
Absolutely. In fact, HARP is where a lot of people know me from my work over the last 20 years. And HARP is a high-frequency active aurora research project based in Alaska. There's been a number of reports periodically about it shutting down. The fact is it's still operating. It's just changed hands a few times. It went from the Air Force and Navy over to DARPA, and now back over to the University of Alaska doing contracts for DARPA and others. So you change the funding source, but the game is still afoot. Now, it is used for manipulating weather systems. It can be used for affecting human consciousness. In fact, if you look at Persinger's work at Laurentian University, he did work on mind control in the mid-'90s. He published a paper that all you would really need to do is create a complex signal that creates a certain sense of dis-ease. And this is done through what's called a frequency following response. It's where the brain locks onto an external signal. It begins to mirror that signal. And as a result, the brain chemistry alters and changes. So you can take a population as an example over a large geographic area, and you can agitate them, create a certain sense of dis-ease, if you will. And then something as simple as Persinger said, feeding a regular news feed in that sort of points to one group or another group and blames them for your ills. And and that anger or that lack of comfort will then move a person or move a population into looking at that group as the villain. It doesn't take very many points to move a population. And this is a very simple method. The other way, a very simple way, is any electronic communication, whether it be the internet, telephone, radio, TV. You can modulate a signal. In fact, on TV, if you look at the white ground behind you when the TV's going and you see that flicker, the flicker rate's usually incoherent, kind of all over the map. But occasionally you'll notice that it's very rhythmic and running maybe between, say, 7 and 10 hertz or pulses per second or vibrations per second. Within about 20, 30 seconds, the brain will entrain, will lock onto that external signal in an FFR, a frequency following response. The result is your brain chemistry changes, your emotional state changes. And that's the most simple way. But you can do this. You can modulate a signal on any electromagnetic carrier. So anything can be utilized. There was an article called The Mind Has No Firewalls. It was published in Perimeters, which is the U.S. Army War College's quarterly. And I believe it was either the winter of 98 or 99, but you can find it on the internet. Read this. It is one of the most important publications, and now it's dated. It's 20 years old. What's happened since is dramatic and much, much more powerful. The fact is, DARPA let a couple of contracts back in 2011, 2012 to the University of California for what's called electronic telepathy, being able to monitor the brain activity of human beings at a distance and determine what they're thinking. And then on a second contract, actually developing complex signals, being able to send them into the brain of another person, literally transmit a message. This is where the technology is today. The Lemelson Prize at MIT was awarded a number of years ago to Woody Norris. This is 2005 or 2006. And that award was $500,000 for doing what's called acoustic heterodyning, being able to send a signal from 2 points into an individual so they literally hear a voice in their head that nobody around them hears. And this was later sold to the military and is now used in so-called perimeter protection systems. At least that's what they've said to the public. You can look this stuff up, and that's where our hallmark is. We don't cite anonymous calls. We cite hard documents in mainstream media because that's where it's at. There's nothing hidden. It's just not compiled very well. In fact, in the late 90s, they started labeling us, instead of investigative reporters, they started calling us compilers, people that could gather intelligence data and then bring it back to the public, and they try to villainize it. The fact is, I've never used classified material when I used it for publication. Now, it may have been classified later, but I would not violate the law. Now, I work to change the law where I think it's wrong, but I won't violate in this sense, because I think that we don't need to predict the future based on the facts is fairly easily done if you go through those facts. And that's why we've been accurate for 22 years. Why I'm still doing this work is because we have been accurate. What was once called conspiracy theory is now the facts reported in the mainstream media. The reality is the mainstream media is lazy. They don't do their jobs. They don't dedicate the kinds of resources necessary to being the police of a democratic republic, because that's what a free press was intended to be. It was intended to keep the public informed, not just say whatever you want, whenever you want, but to keep the public informed so we could have a debate, so we could have a discussion, so we could lead the country as citizens and not as elites. And this is what we need to get back to.
So is there any way for people to protect themselves or shield themselves? If there is some sort of a program that's encompassing the entire globe, how can people reconnect with nature, turn off their TV? What can we do?
There's a lot of things you can do. I mean, first of all, you have to let go of the fear, and that's probably the biggest challenge. And so lean into your spiritual life in that regard, because that's really the answer for fear, I believe. Whatever that represents to you, this is not what we were created to be: fearful, worrying, hiding in a hole. We're stewards of the planet, for goodness sakes. We're creating the image of a creator, for goodness sakes. It's time to act, to claim that birthright and begin to express ourselves in that way. And that's not out of anger and fear. It's out of concern, empathy, love, and compassion for the people on this planet that we care about and those that we don't even know yet. The fact is, change is what's required, and not an external driven change, but an internally recognized need to change. What I think, and why I think that we're in the state of remembering, is because it is the only effective counterbalance to what is happening today. If you succumb to fear, you've already lost. So I think that's the first step. Turning off the television. I made that decision 6 years ago. I don't regret it a bit, because I'm not interested in their feed. I select my news. I select the information. And that's what all of us need to do. Don't just accept the general feed. Be selective. You can draw out anything you want. So I think those are steps we can take. Think about what you're putting on the internet. And, what could we do to sort of devolve this system? One of the things I've talked to people about is evolving software. So every time you do an internet search, that there's 10 searches that go out. So they can't figure out which one you're actually doing. We need software designers to come up with ideas to game the system, to make the data collection worthless. And those are the kinds of innovative things that perhaps people out there listening today with those technical skills can evolve, because we need tools to change the game. The cameras need to point the other way. They need to point into every government office, the local, state, national levels, and international levels. We need to be able to dial up our congressmen and see what's going on in their office. And if they have something to hide, because they're the ones who have something to hide, then we need to rethink this republic. Because the fact of the matter is the cameras are pointed the wrong direction. And it's time to change.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Nick Bagay. Now, you can go to earthpulse.com and check out all of your articles, all of your extensive research there. We also have a lot of your books and things at the InfoWars store as well if you want to support us. Dr. Bagay, thank you so much. Great to have you in studio.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been my pleasure.
is the fungus? Why is the mold? Why is the yeast taking over? What is going on? What has changed? Dr. Group, the new product, Myco ZX, supports normal fungal and yeast balance, proprietary blend of herbs and enzymes made with high-quality ingredients.
Yeah, fungus is a growing epidemic, and I've been testing this formula and making changes to this formula for over 10 years.
It's available at InfoWarsStore.com. We also have free shipping, orders $50 or more, and 10% off when you sign up for auto ship. Additionally, on top of that, please, we only have a limited supply of this. I want to get your reviews. I want to hear what you have to say. For me, it's been incredible. Myco ZX, antifungal, antifungus, anti-yeast. Get it today. Limited run. It'll be months till we get more. InfoWarsStore.com, InfoWarsLife.com, or 888-253-3139. I cannot sell something unless it helps somebody. And you can't support an organization that isn't fighting hard. Look at the response we're getting. We ever change the world together. You are the InfoWar. God bless you all.